I'm Eyck, I'm the executive chef at the Sha-Tin Clubhouse for the Hong Kong Jockey Club, in charge of the Western cuisine, so for bistro, Centurion and parts of Lady Purse. Welcome to our cooking class today. Today we do probably one of the most iconic or authentic dishes of Germany, Switzerland and Austria in that German-speaking part of Europe. And it's called Spaetzle in Germany. The Swiss call it Knöpfli because it looks like little buttons. The Spaetzle from Schwabia, which is an area in Germany, they are scraped by hand from a board. I try to show you both techniques. So it's a flour dumpling, it's like a German style of pasta. What we have is flour, we need eggs, we need milk, we need salt, we need nutmeg. Those are the ingredients for making the dough of the Spaetzle. Quite easy, it's equal amounts. So 100 gram of flour, 100 gram of milk, 1 egg, and all you need to do is beat it until it throws bubbles, but you will see that when we do it. So I'm adding the flour into a bowl. I crack in 2 eggs, that's 200 gram of flour here, so 2 eggs. And then we need 200 gram of the milk. So all we do is stir this in, mix the eggs first. Do a little bit of salt in there now. Then we add the milk. When it comes to recipes, I know people, especially if you're not a professional chef, you like to have the recipes and then try to stick to it. But cooking is also a little bit about feeling, playing around with it, learning by mistakes. Pastry Kitchen fully agree that you need a recipe. And they are usually very accurate. They're almost like scientists. While cooks, if you're an experienced cook, you can adjust a little bit and you still have a great turnout. So now this process takes quite a while, and it's physically, some people you can use a kitchen machine at home if you have. I find it a good exercise for me. And we just have to beat this. And the reason why we have to beat this until bubbles come up is we want the gluten to develop. And the gluten will give it, the gluten in the flour, will give the Spaetzle the texture we desire. So it should be like little soft dumplings. That's what we're aiming for. We put a little bit of nutmeg. We put a little nutmeg in the dough, but we also put a little nutmeg at the end when we fry it in butter. So nutmeg and pasta dishes in Germany, like noodles or dumplings, potato dumplings, they always have a little bit of nutmeg in it. So here you can see it already froze like little bubbles. As you beat it, what will happen? Air goes in and the bubble will pop up. And this is what we're looking for. Then the dough is done. That should be fine. Good. The dough is done. Our next steps for the dumpling, and this you can do the day before if you want, doesn't have to be on the day. We're going to cook them in water just like you do with pasta. So we have a little bit of salted water, touch of oil in there. The water needs to be boiling. Pinch of salt, drizzle of oil. And then usually what we have in Swabia, this is not the original, so this is something I come up with quickly, is a wooden board which we're gonna wet. We need a palette knife or the back of a knife, also okay. Then we put a little bit of the dough onto the board, and as it runs down, we scrape them into water. So all you have is some irregular shapes of the, it needs to come down a little bit, of the pasta. Wet the board again. Next goes on. This is a dish. This is a dish for grandmothers. Every slightly older lady in Stuttgart or Schwabia knows how to make them 10 times better than me. So as you can see now, what we have is those little dumplings. Okay, so this was the more traditional option, scraping it from the board. In the kitchen, there's also some devices you can buy, but don't worry if you don't have a Spaetzle bread. You can also use a little steamer tray coming with ovens. With the modern ovens these days, they have also an insert with steamer tray. So you want holes which are not too small, like this. And then all we do is we're putting the same dough on top of the boiling water. And then we just scraping it into the boiling water. Put a little bit of force on, so enough dough goes through at a time. We don't want them too small. And that does the same trick. So everybody who's watching me from Swabia in Germany, please forgive me, but sometimes we have to do things practical as well. So as you can see, hopefully, the shapes is slightly different, slightly more rounded. That's why the Swiss who use this kind of method call them Knöpfli, because they look like little buttons. Once they rise to the top, once they float on top of the boiling water, then they are done. And then all you need to do is drain them off, run a little bit of cold water over the top. And set that aside. But this is basically, this is what we are looking for, like little dumplings, flour dumplings. You can use them in a soup. What we're going to do is we fry them in a little bit of butter. We serve them with some bacon, a little bit of morels, some onion, and a little bit of butternut squash. Touch of cream in their cheese, slightly gratinated over the top. Perfect dish. So that was the first part of the Spaetzle. As you can see, they're looking quite nice, golden. And now for the second part, and this is entirely up to you, this is just one of my suggestions. Classically, in Germany, they serve with onion and a little bit of speck and some cheese. I quite like the addition of some morels, quite nice, and a little bit of butternut squash. So let's do it this way. And you end up with some nice color, earthy flavors. For the bacon, pancetta, nice little piece. We take the crust off. This is easier if we do that when it's in the freezer, especially if you have a big piece, easier to take off. And I don't cut them too small because I want them to be crispy on the outside but still juicy and moist on the inside, so I don't want it to be too crispy all the way through. So at the beginning we just have fried the pancetta, the bacon, smoked obviously for nice flavor. You don't need to add any oil or butter yet because there's enough fat in the bacon, so it would be a little bit of a waste at this stage. We have an onion, red or white, or button onions if you want, entirely up to you. What you feel like eating. Can also be spring onions last minute. And again, I don't cut them too small because I want to see them. Yeah, so this is probably enough onion wise. Bacon is roasting. You can add the onions because we want them a little bit caramelized. And if you want, and I want, a little bit of butternut squash. At this stage you can put a little drizzle of olive oil or vegetable oil, but just very small. I didn't peel the butternut squash because as I cut it down, I want to square it off anyway. So I'm saving myself a step. Cut them into a nice dice. Add them to your pan. And we saute them. At this stage, a little bit of salt. Again, be careful because we're adding some cheese, so not too much. You can add the morels. And if you want, and again I love thyme, a little bit of chopped thyme. Need to make my kitchen a little bit clean, a little bit messy. At the time. And now we can add a little bit of the Spaetzle. Shake them for the first time, but then actually let them fry so that they're getting a little bit brown. The more you shake them, you never have enough heat from the bottom of the pan to actually get them a little bit caramelized. At this stage, a little bit of the butter in, a little bit of the nutmeg. We'll give it some nice aroma. A little bit of smoked paprika will give it a little bit of golden color and some smoky flavor and spice up the whole thing. Again, this is optional. Our Spaetzle have a nice golden color. Smells amazing, the mushrooms, the bacon, the onion, the butternut squash, so you have smoky, sweet from the butternut squash, smoky from the bacon, the sweet caramelized onions in there, and the morels, the earthiness of the morels. Yeah, that smells pretty amazing. We add a touch of cream, a little bit of Parmesan and Gruyere, and a little bit of grated cheddar. Shake that through, arrange it in our dish. Make sure your dish is oven proof. I mean, if you want to gratinate it, if you're happy with like this is also perfect. You can already eat this. I like it when it's a little bit caramelized on top. So I'm gonna pop this in the oven on the grill, top heat, for about 3 minutes, just so the cheese slightly caramelized. So in it goes in the oven. So the Spaetzle looking nicely caramelized on top. I think that should be fine. Yeah. So there you have it, the cheese which we had in the sauce I put on top, slightly caramelized. So they're ready to eat. All we're gonna do is now sprinkle a little bit more of the Parmesan on top if you want. You could have some parsley or chives. And there you have it. My Schwabian Spaetzle with bacon, morels, butternut squash and caramelized onion and some cheese. Please enjoy. Thanks for joining me today on this cooking class. I hope you had fun. And this is one of my favorite dishes, quite easy to make. So please enjoy making it. Thank you.